Meow, welcome back to my channel. I am Lag and you are my lore. Today, we're going to be taking another look at Aura Kingdom. Before we jump in, I just want to say a quick shout out to everyone that supports me over on Twitch. Thank you for keeping this channel alive. If you want to support, click that link in the description and go follow me at twitch.tv/lagoflore. In a nutshell, my opinion so far is that Aura Kingdom is an extremely beautiful and well-written MMORPG. The storyline is amazing if you take the time to read it, and the combat feels rewarding. The subclass system is amazing, and the sheer versatility of the playstyle is great. There are things like world bosses, guild hall functionality, raids, housing, player economy. It's not pay to win. There's a plethora of waifus and husbandos, and definitely it caters to the social aspect of what an MMORPG should offer. I will say this though, the game does have its issues, but we'll get into that later. Around 2 weeks ago, I did my first initial impressions of the game, and my god, as much as I was impressed back then, the game kept showing me so much more that it had to offer. Keep in mind that I'm still not max level yet, and I haven't experienced all of the content. There's this thing called Awakening that I'm looking forward to, and the next video will come after that. So the storyline, while some might call it a generic anime MMO storyline, it actually pays attention to detail if you give it a chance. You feel a sort of emotional connection to the characters as it plays out. Without giving too much spoilers, every time I thought that I was sure I knew what was coming next, it hit me with like a plot twist, made me go like, wait, what? So I was constantly asking myself, wait, who is the true raid boss? Moving on to combat. The combat system ties into the subclass system for the versatility. I absolutely love being able to play as a whipmaster with a subclass shinobi. It allowed me to dash around as much as I pleased, and there are items in game that you can craft to craft weapons that will give you HP return. It's like a sort of lifesteal system, which when built right is straight up crack. I eventually swapped out to subclass Bard because I needed the heals later on to stay alive in some of the later dungeons. Staying alive means that you need to have good gear, and getting good gear does take a bit of work, I must say. There aren't too much up-to-date YouTube guides, but for me, I suppose that just means there's more content to cover in the future. Wink wink, nudge nudge. You get gear from the Envoy Cube. It's something that the game gives you, so make sure not to trash the gear that you get. You get every 10 levels, so place it on an alt character for when you want to level up another character. There's a lot of things you need to do with your gear, but I wouldn't worry too much about any of these things until you get to around like level 90. Fortification is one of the first things that you're going to do. Free fortification comes up to +9, and it comes from the quest lines that you do, and they drop really easily in some of the dungeons. Higher level fortification you can worry about later. They have to be farmed, but they can be done so in a multitude of different ways. There are things like the secret stones which drop from dungeons for almost each piece of your gear. It's kind of mind-blowing. And you also have things like enchants, which can also be obtained by farming, and you can craft them from the encyclopedia above. Most things can actually be crafted or bought through the encyclopedia above, which is, you know, uses currency that you get from running dungeons and killing bosses and a bunch of different things. However, a large part of your farming will come from doing things like world bosses, and these are unlocked when the quest line hits like around level 60ish. The world bosses spawn once every 4 hours or so, and they have a chance to spawn on each channel. The community is really well established with respect to this because they have raid leaders that coordinate the wheel boss farming, and it's pretty solid. However, if non-stop combat isn't your thing, there are a host of dungeons where you have to solve puzzles or do non-combat related things. Personally, I don't do these unless I have to, since I have an IQ that matches my shoe size. Next up is guild stuff. There's so much you can do just by being a guild. I mean, you even get like an XP boost and a loot drop boost and stuff just by joining a guild, just for being in a guild. You have access to all the NPCs like the auction house, the bank, and you can load into the guild hall from almost anywhere in the game. Remember the Eidolons? They spawn at the guild hall at certain times. You can smack them with your guild members to get a chance at their key fragments. You can also make Eidolon summons for the guild and host summoning events for your guild. If guild stuff isn't your thing, there's this neat feature where you can farm most of the Eidolons for their key fragments daily, and it's called the Gaia's Sanctuary. Moving on to raids. These are instances that load more than your standard party into it, and you team up with other players to complete the objective. One of the more notable ones is the Sky Tower. It has a total of 60 floors with expansions planned for the future. The tower opens on different days for different floors at specific times, so you can coordinate with your friends to be able to get in. I say that because teamwork is very necessary, and some of these floors require a lot of strategic thinking and a lot of work. Housing. I haven't leveled up my house enough yet, but I did buy some expensive waifu statues and threw them around in a disorderly fashion, which gives everyone that visits my house anxiety, including myself. So instead, let's take a look at GS Lali's house. It's very, very pretty, and you can do so much with housing. You even have your own little estate where you can farm, fish, do a bunch of other things that I've yet to explore. But for now, just, enjoy the aesthetics of Lali's house. Player economy. The player economy is somewhat circular with the exception of a specific cash shop currency which you can only get with money. However, there are 4 main currencies that you need to worry about. You need to worry about gold for buying and selling things from other players, or upgrading your gear, buying things in game. Loyalty points for buying cash shop items without having to use money. Fantasy vouchers which you can obtain through various means, again for buying like cash shop items, just without having to use money. And finally, you have ARIA points, which is the exception that I mentioned before. This is the cash shop currency, which you can only buy with money. And the items you buy on the item mall you can either use for yourself or sell for gold. Is it pay to win? Now, this is a very heated topic. I got into this with a couple of my friends, and I will have to say that I am standing strong. It is not pay to win. It is more of a pay for convenience. Like I said, the economy is somewhat circular except for the AP. You can't buy AP with gold, but you can buy almost anything else in game using gold, and most of the things are purchasable with loyalty points. Loyalty points are very easy to farm, and you can do this very, very quickly after you hit level 90-ish. The ease at which you get the loyalty points and gold makes it very, very hard to say that this game is pay to win. It's more like other games where you pay for convenience, or if you don't have the time to grind a couple hours, then you can pay. But some of the prices are really, really exorbitant on the item mall, so it's kind of a deterrent from paying, It's like, why spend $100 when you can just grind for like 4 hours? And that is what I mean by it's not pay to win. Because that time frame is very, very, I don't have to grind 2 weeks to catch up to what somebody can just do in like, just by throwing $100 at the game. Anyway, moving on, before I get too much into that. Eidolons. Eidolons feel like they are a very core part of the game. There are about 118 or 119 so different Eidolons, and they each have unique skills and functions. Aside from the meta, people collect these because they are absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, look at my waifu. I mean, don't look at it too much. There are also so many Eidolon, waifu, or husbandos in the game that collecting them all through just the in-game means that you're going to have a lot of content to look forward to. Okay, so before I get to the social aspects, let me touch on the issues that I do have with the game. The game, while visually appealing with a compelling narrative and a great community, has a surprisingly small player base. This can be a turn-off to a lot of new people as newbie areas aren't too populated. The game makes you sort of beeline to endgame to be able to start interacting with a lot of the player base properly. Issue number 2. The forums aren't available for some reason, so any information you have to get with respect to guides comes from older YouTube videos or on Discord. Issue number 3. There's so much to do in the game that it can be overwhelming for a new player. The game doesn't help you figure out why you're bad, but it's not necessarily an issue because the community is very supportive. I am running short on time, so I'll try to wrap this up. This game has so many beneficial aspects to it. It is a well-rounded MMORPG. The community is nice, there are a lot of social aspects. Being in a party gives bonus XP, being in a guild gives bonus XP. The community managers do a really, really good job of interacting with the community and hosting events. The game sages host so many events and they're super, super approachable. And the list goes on. So if you want to know more, come find me and let's play Aura Kingdom together. And until then, meow.